رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this concise guide of Hijab guide. We're going to talk about Islamic covering under the Sharia. The hijab or the covering, according to Sharia, becomes obligatory upon you when you reach the age of puberty, and that is with the sign of menstruation. That could be young as 11, 12. Whenever you see the sign of puberty, which is signs of menstruation, then you have reached that age in which you need to start covering. In order to understand how we need to cover, we're going to look at the Quran in this particular surah, Surah 24. We are told the women should draw their veil, their covering, their khimar over their chests, so their bosom area. A lot of the people say hijab is not mentioned, which is correct. Hijab means a covering, a barrier, sorry, and a khimar means a covering. People do use them interchangeably, and that's fine. We then have a verse in the Quran that talks about believing women covering themselves by drawing their cloaks over their bodies. We are now getting a clearer picture of how Islamically or under the Sharia a woman should start covering herself. So yes, there is a covering to draw over her chest. There is also a cloak that she needs to put on. And some people argue that that does not include the head. Sometimes in the Quran there are words that are more comprehensive than they appear, and the literal meaning has been included in translations, but we are going to see what they mean. The hadith, it says that veil refers to covering the head and the breast, so it does include the head, and a lot of people think, oh, it only includes the chest area, it doesn't include the head, or just includes the breast area. And that's not correct, because we have to look at the hadiths that elaborate that meaning and explain it further for us. There is another hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha. When she speaks about this verse, she said, when it was revealed, the women would cut sheets and covered their heads and their faces, and this is in the Hadith Bukhari. So here we learn how the women understood that verse. In the Quran, it says the jiyubihinna. The word jiyubihinna, to cover the jiyubihinna. So here it explains to us whether or not the chest area is the only thing that we need to cover. Now, the word is jiyubihinna, which is, as I said, is a comprehensive word, and it includes covering the body, the necks, the head, and chest. Now, someone might say, well, ears are not mentioned. If I have to cover my head and I have to cover my neck, surely that is still is comprehensive to include everything, that because my ears are part of my face and head, they come with my head, with my face. Well, my head really, not my face, because the face, there are different verses. Um, some some say that it included the veil, just included or extended that ruling to the wives of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and some say no, it's generally for all women. However, that is a issue which is optional. So because there is difference of opinion, but however, this where we're covering the head and our body, that's not open for interpretation or discussion, simply because the ruling is very clear on that. Now, when we look at the Juyubihinna, which is mentioned, it's explained in the Quran for us to better understand it. If the people or the women around the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not understand this verse correctly, and you are claiming that it does not include your head, then surely the Prophet, peace be upon him, would have corrected his own wife and told her that she didn't need to cut, or women around there didn't need to cut their sheets and place them over their heads and their bodies, and including their faces. And that, again, as I said, is optional. However, what is not optional is the head. The head needs to be covered. And we know that because we have to go through we have to first and primarily go through the rulings from the Quran, but see how they explained in the Hadith. For example, we're told in the Quran to pray, but we go to the Hadiths to learn the method of prayer. So whilst the Quran is a base, we have to also understand it in conjunction with the Hadiths, and we cannot just independently take the Quran as a independent source, because then will be misguided. The Hadith did not come for anything other purpose but to complement and to elaborate on the rulings of the Quran for us. And we must understand them in conjunction with the Hadith. So if the women at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, were applying this verse in this manner, then the people that are coming to you or with this argument, or if you have that thinking that yes, I don't have to cover my head because it's not mentioned in this verse of the Quran. Well, you need to understand Arabic, because if you go to the Arabic dictionary, the word himar is mentioned as a covering of your head body. If you look at juyubihinna, then you know that it's explained to us what this word includes. So if that's been explained grammatically and you're not an expert, and a lot of the people who come with these arguments are not, linguistically experts in the Arabic language, then they must follow the understanding of the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, because that is those people that were guided to understand Islam in the way it should have been understood. For example, a man, when the verse was revealed, when you distinguish the black thread from the white, then you can begin your fasting. He took two threads and put them under his pillow, trying to distinguish the difference, but couldn't do it. So I went to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and told him, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, explained it does not mean the the physical the physical difference between the black and white thread. It actually means the difference between the thread of dawn to the thread from the blackness of the sky. So as soon as you see the white thread, that means the dawn has begun. So if anybody misunderstood a verse of the Quran, the Prophet was the first to correct them. The women and the wife of the Prophet were interpreting the hijab or the khimar covering in this way, interpreting it in this sense, where they said it covers the head, the chest, neck, and our bodies. Then the Prophet would have told them if they were incorrect. So please make sure you are following the Quran and the Hadith correctly and accordingly, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.